Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and welcome to a chilly November Monday. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome all listeners to the home of the Wicked Witch, her little monsters, and one handsome devil.
Am I the handsome devil?
You are.
For new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Looks like we have a new shout out to make.
Yes, we have a new patron.
My Scion.
Welcome to the Tea Club.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
And your support.
So, Voyse, what have you crafted for me today?
Today, I have brewed for you my enchanted Earl Grey recipe. In it, I have, of course, Earl Grey, rose petals, marigold petals, and lavender buds, so that you can have a floral scent while you drink it.
Oh yeah, Fruit Loopy, just the way I like it. 5 out of 5 easily.
Yes. Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning cup of brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling a former student to move on and stop lamenting the death of his youth? I am a college professor. Back in early 2020, one of my students, Mitch, failed out of school, big time. He especially got an F in my class. Thing is, he lost his father and was so depressed and shell-shocked by it that he couldn't concentrate. This was when he was 21. He had my personal email, and looking back, I might have been too hard on him through it. I said he was sad and pathetic, and that you could accomplish nothing in life because you're you. There was another professor saying similar things to him. 4 years later, he is 25, and for better or worse, Mitch has changed. Now he's reporting me to admin for things I did 4 years ago, and I'm worried I'll lose my job. I told him to move on and stop lamenting the death of his youth, and now he won't stop trying to get me and the other professor fired. 21-year-old Mitch would have never tried something like this. He's also trying to return to school for a fresh start, something else he'd never do. Am I the a-hole?
What a way to kick off Monday. So I think this one's a pretty straightforward story because our professor kind of outlines everything for us pretty clearly. He had a student, it says 4 years ago, that was struggling because his father had passed. Everyone handles death in their lives differently. And unfortunately for Mitch in this situation, it affected his grades and he ended up dropping out of college.
It didn't sound like he had much of a support system in his professors.
Oh, I'm kind of shocked. I hope this story's fake. He says some funny things along this tale though. He's like, well, the Mitch I knew who was 21 would never come back and say these things to me like this. He would never try to get back into school. Well, he's also 25 years old at this point. You change a lot from when you're 21 to 25. You should, anyway. It's kind of weird that he's taken aback by Mitch essentially growing, because that's what you're supposed to want as a teacher from a pupil.
Unless he has an issue with Mitch in particular.
It sounds like there's more going on there. If you did this to Mitch, what leads me to believe that you haven't done it to other students along the way? Exactly what did he say?
He said specifically he was sad and pathetic, and that he'll accomplish nothing in life because he's who he is.
Yikes. I don't know if that was some weird reverse psychology he was trying to pull on Mitch, but I definitely believe, OP, you are a gigantic a-hole. I hope that you get reviewed by whatever board is about to come to your door.
The consensus on Reddit is that our OP is definitely the a-hole. In fact, I have to say, Mitch is only 25. He's still in the middle of his youth. He's still growing into his own person. The fact that this awful teacher would want to break down any student, even if it has the terrible excuse that he's trying to reverse psychology them into their better person, is a awful way to want to teach and grow your pupils and to become a good mentor. I hope you're right and that the school board does investigate into this and takes away that job, because he doesn't need to be breaking down his students in the hopes that they'll be better, or essentially breaking them down because he wants to feel like a bigger person.
I guess the only thing I will say is this story does sound a little strange just because he does admit to doing these things. And I just feel like someone who did do those things, especially if they're a professor at a college or a university, they probably wouldn't be admitting these things to anyone. So it is kind of weird. That's all I'll say about it. It almost leads itself to be maybe, hopefully, a fake story.
I hope that it is as well. I know there are some commenters that wonder if this was actually Mitch who was writing this out, in the hopes of it almost being therapeutic for them to have a community that's essentially either going to back up the professor for his terrible deeds or will potentially back up Mitch for what he's about to do when it comes to him standing up to his own bullies.
I just hope that you can move forward in your life and better yourself. If this is the professor that is writing, you need to go get yourself some help.
Well, let's go ahead and go to our next story and see what's happening with our neighbors. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on the neighbor's son after he kept leaving notes outside of our house? So, one of our neighbors, Jordan, age 13, lost his father recently. About a month later, he started leaving random notes on our porch or stick them on the front door. My husband would read what's written on them, and I've read a couple of them. They were what seemed to be encouraging notes, which really didn't bother me at first, but he kept doing this. My husband thought that since the kid is going through some stuff, and since he does this with the other neighbors as well, then we should let it go. I tried to ignore so much of it on many different levels, but I could not take it anymore. Something didn't feel right. I told him to stop. He didn't, and so I called the cops. That was last week while my husband was out of the house. The cops spoke to me, then Jordan and his mom, although nothing came out of it. Jordan's mom, my husband, and the other neighbors came at me for what I did. My husband started yelling at me saying I was awful and unfeeling for doing this to a grieving kid. I told him how much violated I felt, but he called me a freaking drama queen. I was hurt by this, but he just kept basically lashing, saying the kid was doing no harm. Moreover, he said that Jordan's notes were actually helpful in getting him through the day. I told him that Jordan should get into therapy, but he still thought I was wrong. The neighbors started avoiding, while others would drop some hurtful, indirect comments about what I did. Now I'm expected to apologize to Jordan and his mom, but really, should I? Am I the a-hole here?
I guess ROP says that a 13-year-old is writing notes and leaving them by the door. And I guess he began this after his father passed.
And his father passed about a month ago.
And this is how he's coping, by leaving letters of encouragement to other people?
Correct. Probably little post-it notes saying, you got this, today's your day. Good things like that.
I think that's pretty stand-up of him. I'm very sorry that his father passed. I don't know why ROP has a problem with the 13-year-old the way she does, especially because she understands the circumstance.
Would you like for me to go ahead and read to you some of the comments that she gave to Redditors when they asked similar questions?
Ruh-roh.
Some of the commenters asked what kind of things he wrote, asked her, was it just only her? And what about it felt violating? Our OP responded with this. I don't know. I feel like it's trespassing in a way. I just didn't feel comfortable with what he was doing. I can't fully explain it, but this is how I felt. Not the notes in particular, but his behavior by showing up every other day and leaving the notes. And lastly, the OP said, they contained encouraging words, the stuff we see all the time.
I'm struggling with this story because ROP is saying that this is how she's feeling. I don't know what type of trauma she's gone through in her life to where even when a child shows up at their porch or their door every other day to leave a note, that it makes her feel unsafe. It is her property at the end of the day. It is her right to feel a certain way when someone approaches your home. I can't say that that's right or wrong because I don't know her past. What I will say is, again, she knows what's in those notes. She knows what that child's going through. And she knows that that child is leaving notes throughout the neighborhood for everyone. they're not just being targeted. This isn't one of those type of situations. I don't like what she did. I don't like that she didn't go to the mother directly and spoken to her. If she really didn't like what the 13-year-old was doing, it doesn't sound like she reached out at all to them. She just went straight to the cops. OP, you are a gigantic a-hole. Would I have handled it that way? No. I would not have been bothered with a kid leaving positive notes on our door. That 13-year-old needs the same words of encouragement he's giving to you guys back to him.
I also agree with you, Timstradamus. I think that this is that child looking for that encouragement back as he's trying to give it to the world. Now, let me go ahead and give you the consensus. Redditors came down on this OP.
I knew that was going to happen.
And they are definitely labeled that they are the a-hole. Not for the feelings, but for how they escalated the entire issue. Rather than going ahead and speaking to the mom, rather than speaking with her own husband that lives with her, she went to the cops. It feels like she went from 0 to 100. I have to say, personally for me, this is going to be a harsh, our OP is the a-hole. I understand that there might be some underlying issues, but this is a 13-year-old boy that literally lost his father a month ago, and our OP is aware of that. The grieving that this child is going through and the way that he's trying to create an outlet of positivity around him, it's not an odd issue of he's just sending her just her notes.
Yeah.
He was sending it to the entire neighborhood. And then on top of that, her husband was aware of, and she only read just a few of the notes. The notes seem to be mainly going through her husband. So I feel a little odd here for me why anybody would try and twist a good deed around like this. And then on top of that, escalate it to a different extreme.
At the end of the day, I want to give the 13-year-old a hug and give him all that positivity that he's given to other people.
In the end, I hope that he doesn't take that just because he's trying to be a good person and do good deeds, that he needs to be punished and it should be smothered away.
Hopefully he doesn't let this experience dictate how he treats people in the future.
I hope so too. If anything, it sounds like the neighborhood, his mother, and even our OP's husband is really trying to create a good support system for this young man.
Maybe in time that'll help the OP really open her heart and see what she did was wrong.
Well, let's go ahead and go to our next story and see about this birthday. Am I the a-hole for wanting my wife to join in my birthday celebrations? I, 32 male, and my wife, 25 female, have been together for 6 years, married for 2, and we are happily 5 months pregnant with our first child. The pregnancy came as a shock to us both, but we are so excited to start our family. I have always been a loving and supportive husband, and this has been no exception. I take time off work. I drive her to doctor's appointments. I try to be the best for her. Yesterday was my 32nd birthday, and so my wife, myself, and some friends of ours went out for drinks. Everyone was having a great time, but my wife didn't seem to be enjoying herself. So when I went to get my next drink, I also got her one. It was only a bottle of 3% beer, so nothing too strong, but she point blank refused to drink it. I asked her to, nicely, because it was my birthday, and having 1 or 2 beers would probably help her enjoy the night a bit more. Still, she refused, and eventually got so upset that she got a taxi home. She then texted me telling me not to come home, so I stayed in a hotel overnight. We spoke at midday today when I got home, and I explained that she should have respected my wishes for her to try and enjoy my birthday, especially considering the fact that I had been waiting on her hand and foot for months. She responded saying some stuff about the alcohol harming the baby, but honestly, I think 1 or 2 beers wouldn't hurt. She called me an a-hole and saying that I don't care about our family, and says she is going back to her parents' house for the week to clear her head. So am I the a-hole? Edit. This post is not about the age difference between me and my wife, so please refrain about commenting on it. Edit 2. My wife smokes. I forgot to mention, but I feel it's relevant. Am I the a-hole?
Wow. Okay. So this story is quite tantalizing because at the very end of this thing, he makes sure to let us know, by the way, I might be asking her to drink, but she also smokes. So tit for tat. What she's already doing is very harmful to the kid. So what's a couple beers? That's essentially how I heard the end of that story go.
So just to go ahead and actually put out there are some individuals where it's very difficult for them to stop smoking. While, yes, we would want any pregnant woman not to smoke while she's pregnant, a lot of people say, look, it's very hard to just cold turkey quit what you've been doing for years.
Sure.
Even if you start dumbing it down more and more to the point where you're no longer smoking, it helps the baby. There's no way for us to know if that's how it is. If it is where she's dumbing it down slowly so she can get off of it, whether she's smoking, chain smoking, whether it's in every once in a while when everything hits wrong and then she just has to have a puff before she can't. And medically, you would want them not to, but every doctor says, even if you reduce down your smoking, you're helping your child.
Then let me say it like this, because you pointed it out pretty clearly. We cannot confirm or deny how it is she's taking her smoking at this point in her pregnancy. So that, in my mind, will null out him asking for the drinking, because that can be just as bad depending on how much she is smoking, is what you just told me.
Correct.
So
this is strictly based off of what I've read concerning medical records and from our actual commenters.
So this is how I'm going to have to take it. They'll both box each other out because you're both doing things you shouldn't be doing while she's pregnant. End of story in my mind. But what this does really come down to is, at that party, when you know your wife is very uncomfortable around drinking while she's pregnant, you take her to task about it, ask her to drink at a birthday party that is yours, and then when she tells you no, it sounds like you repeatedly ask her during this party to drink. That's the issue. At the very base of this is you didn't accept someone telling you no. That's a problem within a relationship. That's an issue, and that goes into every other aspect of your life. When you're unwilling to take no as an answer, that is a you problem, not a your partner problem. So for me, you are the a-hole. I think one of the more funny points in this is his edit notes, where he's like, by the way, don't make this about our age gap. As if saying that's going to refute anything.
Well, the consensus on Reddit was our OP is the a-hole, and everybody simplified it exactly how you did. They said, scrub away that she's pregnant and just ask that point question. She didn't want to drink and you wouldn't accept no. Now, other Redditors, of course, were pointing out that she could be struggling with quitting, but there were some individuals out there that said, how interesting that you would put it in an edit that she smokes, trying to make your wife look like a hypocrite on the internet just because you want to win something.
Yup.
And it had a lot of people questioning, if she was taking drinking seriously, it doesn't make sense that she wasn't taking quitting smoking or has already quit smoking, and you're just trying to make her look bad simply because this was added as an edit at the end. Now, there's no way for us to know. And I agree with you, Timstradamus, and all the other Redditors. When you break it down to that core question, did she want to drink? She said no. And that should have been the end of it.
Why would you even bother asking your pregnant wife to drink when you know it doesn't matter if it's 3% or not? You're playing Russian roulette with something you don't have to.
Agreed. I know when I was pregnant with our son, I quit drinking caffeine because I heard that caffeine's not very good for a growing baby inside you. The hardest thing for me to do, Timstradamus, was not drink coffee. At that time, I felt like I was cursed, but I never regret it at all. If it meant that our child could grow up healthy, I would do it all over again.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Well, let's go on to our very last story of the day, and I can't wait to hear your honest opinion about this. Am I the a-hole for being honest and telling my sister that she is fat?
Let's wrap up Monday.
I am 18 female and my sister Chloe is 16 female. Chloe and I are pretty close, and we've always been super honest with each other. Lately, Chloe has been really insecure about her body, comparing herself to Instagram models and other girls at school. And most recently, I think she's been comparing herself to me, making comments about how great I look in something and how she could never pull it off, which I kind of laugh off. I've always told her the things I love about her. She's got a beautiful face, great teeth, long hair, etc. But to be completely honest, my sister is a pretty big girl, like US size 8 to 10. Again, we have a very honest relationship. So when she asked me if she looked/was fat, I told her yes, but she can easily fix it if she starts watching what she eats. Like she would look amazing if she lost 20 to 30 pounds. She didn't say anything, but later I heard her crying in her room and she didn't want me to come in. And now my mom is mad at me for making her upset. I feel kind of bad, but also why would she ask if she didn't want me to tell her the truth? Am I the a-hole here? So Timstradamus, just to provide you with a little bit more clarity, our OP says that her sister is 5'10". Additionally, a size 8 to 10, when you're considering shirt sizes, as it's a little difficult in size measurements for women, we're talking about a medium.
Okay. I guess I'll say it like this. Regardless of how big or small your sister is, knowing those facts or not, you have to take into account and you have to frame this because we're dealing with an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. These are still kids. And kids, especially when you're talking about siblings, will be honest with each other. And it sounds like they have that type of relationship. Now, they're suffering through what all generations have suffered through, comparing yourself. That sucks. And it's never been more prevalent than it has been now, or as easily accessible. These kids are growing up now, looking at their phones, being attached to them and seeing what things look like and what they look like.
And then on top of that, when you find out later that some of these pictures are edited to try and make said Instagram model or celebrity look much thinner than they truly are, it leads to a lot of our youth having ED problems.
There's a whole slew of things that come from looking at fake things all the time and believing you're not good enough. All that being said, I'm happy that you can have a candid conversation with your sibling. I think that's important. But there are better ways that you can handle that type of conversation with more tact. Me telling that to an 18-year-old is very hard, but hopefully in the future she learns how to navigate that for you and your sister's sake. At the end of the day, you are the a-hole because this will not be the last time that this type of situation crops up. This will be a lifelong thing. All siblings go through that with each other. You have to learn how to be the support system, not the wrecking ball.
I like that. Well, the consensus on Reddit was that our OP was definitely the a-hole. In fact, I have to wonder. Let me go ahead and read to you one comment that the poster put out. They said, I am a size 00, which I know is on the small size, but I'd say most healthy/fit girls are between my size and like size 6. So I don't think she needs to look like me, but she could definitely drop 2 to 3 dress sizes. A size 00 is extremely skinny. And when I hear that, my mind goes to, I wonder if you have an ED. And I wonder if there's a bit of body dysmorphia when it comes to the viewpoint on how our OP and even her sister are looking at what they should be. I hope that she actually read all of the Redditors' comments. Although some of them were harsh, there were some that were very straight up. A lot of them saying, you're not a medical professional to be telling your sister what size dresses and what size she should be for her height. If anything, I would just like to put out there, regardless of your size, as long as you're healthy and you're happy, you're beautiful.
I can definitely agree with that. Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
Well, you definitely gave us some provoking ones on this Monday.
I did. A little triggering sometimes, but hopefully some food for thought.
Definitely, I would say. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, or follow, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to go ahead and thank all of our patrons for your support.
Yes, love and appreciate every single one of you. As always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today?
Yes, I can't wait to hear what our commenters think, especially when it comes to the stories about the neighbors.
Oh yeah, definitely. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.